Brandon, we'll uh, we'll start in a few in 2-3 minutes. We are redirecting people to the stage from the Discord server, so we'll begin in 2 minutes. If that's fine.
Okay, noted.
It's night for you there, right? Right on the Philippines, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it's currently 9:30 in the evening.
Oh, that's How was the day? How was work today?
The what?
How was your work today?
My work?
Your work, yeah. Like, how was the work today?
Yeah, it's, I think it's good.
All right, I think we can begin. We have our audience people joining in as they come. So I think we can start off. Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you all to this interactive session we have specifically tailored towards open source development. We have been circulating messages for the past 1 week, so just in case no one knows what we're doing here today, we have a guest with us today, Brandon. He is mainly known for his game, which was recognized by Markiplier. For those who are not aware, Markiplier is a very highly reputed indie game critic, and Brandon got featured on his channel with his game there. So Brandon's here today to give us some insights as to how open source works, because open source is something all students we take advantage of, and because it's quite easy and easily accessible, but none of us really know the process behind it, or how do you start being a contributor to an open source project. So he's there to shed some light on that. So I think we can start with a few questions which you have prepared, and then later on we will open the questions to the audience as well. If you all are comfortable, you all can come up and speak, or we have a Q&A session. We have a Q&A channel in the sessions tab. You can type the questions there as well. So I will ask that on your behalf. All right. So we'll begin. The first question is that how do you start contributing to open source in game development? How do you start it at a basic level?
Yeah, so first I started contributing to game development, but that's not the first one. First started contributing to open source in general. So I contributed, I made some patches to some of these modules or tools that I have used for game development. So to start is, I guess, to choose one that you're going to use or you're currently using, or even if you're just interested in and you want to get the gist or want to get familiar with it. And to start contributing as well, you have to get a good grasp on the API. So I think experience is required, experience with using that tool or that open source. And if you want to start, you can begin by checking the issue tracker or the issues or the pull request. And check for the bugs, errors, suggestion, or requests from other people or from the developers themselves. And then you can learn the process that goes to that project, and then you can start studying, checking the code base, and then from there you repeat until you learn it and contribute.
All right. So I think I have a follow-up question on that is what motivated you to do something like for open source again you only get credits, you don't really get any form of monetary benefit or payment. So what motivated you to be an open source developer?
I'm not much into the financial benefit when it comes to open source because first of all, you have to understand or you have to know that open source is not about money. It's
Hmm.
about making an impact to the technology to other people because first, before you contribute on open source, that open source project was made or were made by other developers with just passion without any monetary compensation. So you have to get yourself in that same mindset as the original developers.
All right. Okay. So yeah, I think you touched upon this in your last question that when you start an open source contribution in a specific framework or a language, Lua, C Sharp, whichever whatever you're going for, do you need to have a base knowledge or is it something you can just pick up like a programming language? Is it any different, open source and a normal, just learning a normal language?
Uh, yeah, contributing into an open source is much deeper, much technical, so it requires a lot of familiarization with the open source project that you're to tackle on. So in my experience, yes, you have to have a base knowledge about it. And so to get that base knowledge, you have to first use it. So you have a basic idea of it, and then from there, if you're passionate or if you really want to spend or invest in that open source or in that technology, you can help by testing, you can file bugs, you can uh, make patches, make contributions. So yeah, I guess that's it.
Alright. And as a profession, you are a software engineer, and game development is something which you do
Yeah.
on the side. So it's not your main job. So how do you balance both of them? And also, are the skills interdisciplinary? Do they help you in either departments?
Yeah, definitely. So before I got my software engineering career or job, I learned first. So I made the famous game I'm known for first before even going to college. So game development has definitely been helpful. It gave me a big head start among my peers. So the level that you or the level of knowledge and skills that you will gain from game development will really set you ahead of your competition. So because in game dev I've learned how to make optimization, how to worry about performance, about the storage, about the efficiency, and even the structure and design of the code. So you have to learn that. And then when you apply that in your career or in your work or professionally, it's really helpful. It's really beneficial.
Okay, so you brought up the point of optimization and learning the syntax and stuff. So why cannot I not do the same thing to something like Python or C Sharp? How does game dev give me that edge over just learning a language normally?
Yeah, so for game development, you have to learn the language as well, but the language is just a mere tool. You don't have to focus on the language. Yes, you have to learn the language, like the syntax for the semantics for the what are the efficient way of doing this thing, let's say versus doing this thing in Python or C Sharp. But at the end of the day, the focus or the goal of game development is to learn the general topics, the general idea, that is not language exclusive. So, for example, in game development, you can learn how to load or load your resources, your images. So that's not particularly language exclusive
Hmm.
or exclusive. It's more general topic, but you can learn how to approach using different languages.
All right. And you stated before that you made your first game even before you went to college. So how does someone, a college student, someone like me, or someone who says that I have no idea about game development, but I want a starting point, but I'm lost, so I will not be able to do it. How do you start as a complete stranger in this field?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So, I I'm not a really a programmer before I became a game dev. So there's no programming subject in my school or in elementary, high school. So it was completely a stranger and new with programming. So I was a big fan, or I'm a big fan of, I don't know if you know PewDiePie. So I'm a big fan of that famous YouTuber. So he's playing these horror games, and then suddenly I saw a splash screen in one of a game, and it says, or it's written, made by something engine. So that sparked my curiosity. So I researched that, and then I realized that anyone, even students, can start making their own games. So you don't have to be a professional, or you don't have to pursue a degree or graduate in college to learn how to program. So with that, basically it was really self-taught. I was self-taught, learning from YouTube, from watching video, from reading on the internet. So that's where I learned programming, and then I started game development because the dream was to make a game that PewDiePie will someday play.
And you got Markiplier. I think that's good enough as well. So
Yeah,
so you
so that's the
basically,
irony.
so you do not need any formal education per se. It's, you could completely do it on your own, is what you're trying to convey.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Now another thing with game development is if you're doing it single-handedly or even if it's a small team, these projects are very large when it comes to graphics and game mechanics and bugging and debugging. So how do you start a project, and how do you keep it up, and how do you finish it? Because that is a, and I don't think this is a game dev specific problem. This is a problem with any project in any industry. How do you start and you finish it? So can you just shed some light on that?
So, another good question. So, first, to start a project is you have to be sure of the project or of the idea that you want to make. What's the goal? What's the purpose of the project? If it's going to be for fun, then you have to be consistent. You have to maintain that fun passion or that fun motivation that you got. And starting is very easy because you have that initial driving motivation or driving force to make start. But after a night, after 1 week, after a month, so being consistent and being still motivated in doing that project is going to be difficult. So in my experience, making a project, if you're going to do it by yourself, make the scope smaller. Don't make it way too big and way too much for you to handle. So you have to
Hmm.
assess yourself as well. So if you can do the time frame, if you can manage your time, and let's say if you can keep up the motivation for that long.
Okay, and let's just say once you've started this project, how do you face, as a single person developing, how do you face certain roadblocks or challenges which you cannot seem to solve in the moment? How do you go about overcoming those obstacles?
Yeah, so in especially in programming, and if you're learning along the way, so you will come across problems, many issues, let's say errors. So you don't know what to do or how to fix it, how to continue, or how to implement this mechanic that you want. So uh, I'll suggest, or based on my experience, I'll say that to take a break,
Hmm.
try to take a break and sleep on it, wait for the next day, and you need to clear your head, you need to rest, you need to relax, and then if you clear your head, you will have more room for more ideas, and then you can approach it on a different perspective. And if that doesn't work, you can always other people, because other people can always be helpful and can help uh, provide maybe they experience it, maybe they know the technicalities behind it, so they can help, they can provide suggestion, and then it will give you another perspective.
All right. And just continuing on this question, you can just keep continuing on it. You mentioned that you need to assess yourself and the scope before you pick an idea or a project. So, what is your thought process? How do you pick your projects before you start their development?
Yeah, so personally, or in the past few projects, so uh, the thought process, I just want to do this. I just want to implement this idea that just like suddenly occurred to me. So that's the starting point. And thought process is basically just uh, continue and continue and keep doing it. So I'm not much of a guy person to explain when it comes to the thought process.
Okay. You just go with the flow and see what happens as it goes.
Yes.
So, and like, if you're doing this, do you maintain some record of what you do, or is just, today we'll do this and we'll see about the rest tomorrow? Like, do you have a logbook or something like that?
Uh, I suggest for other to keep or maintain a log of the progress, but personally, I always fail to do it. First, I start with setting up things, setting up the milestones, the targets, and then after that, I just forgot about it, and then I move on. And yeah, I'm bad at managing myself with this kind of thing.
All right. So everyone should maintain one, but you don't do it.
Yeah.
All right. So we can dwell into a bit of your software development side as well. I mean, we'll correlate it to game dev. Do you notice any common patterns or reoccurring themes in both forms of development? And like, how do you manage your time between them?
Yeah, so with software development, especially if you're going to work on it professionally, it's very different when it comes to first we have game development, like professional game development, and we have the indie or independent game development. So that's the category that I belong to. So if you will experience both, you will realize that it's very different. First, for software development, it's very professional. There's a lot of things you have to do first before you proceed in development. So you have to follow uh, what are the tasks that are to be done at the end of the day. But with game development, you are free. You're free to implement what you want. You are free to code any feature, or you are free to do anything you want with game development. But in software, it's really hard. So it's very different. As for the time management, of course, the priority is the work, because you have to meet the expectations, meet the deadlines, let's say, and because you're working for a company, so you're aside from you're like under obligation to focus on that. So for me, the priority is work, and if I have free time, usually I have other work, so that's when I do side projects like game development, open source contribution,
Hmm.
and other personal projects.
Okay, and while you're doing, since you mentioned that software development is your main priority because you're working for a company, do you think that your side work, does it upskill or does it help you in your actual professional work?
Yeah, so again, game development give you a lot of knowledge and skills that you can apply to any to your professional work. So it's a big head start. And because there are topics, there are tech, like let's say technical stuff that the game dev will increase your knowledge and skills as opposed to the other way around. So in my experience, I don't have much any knowledge or skills that I've taken from software development or from work development. It's always the other way around. It's
Uh,
always what I've learned in game development, doing game development, I apply that to work, to the professional software development.
hmm. Alright. I was actually, while I was going through your LinkedIn before we had this session, I noticed that you're someone who's worked in backend at a very high professional level. So, what are you more interested in? I mean, the client side scripting or the server side? I mean, if for the audience listening, I'll just break it down. Do you prefer front end or back end? I think that's a simpler way to put it.
Yeah, so I really definitely don't like front end development. So that's the I really hate doing HTML, CSS. So I really don't want to get into that kind of work. So when I was hired, the first job is my current job right now. So I really specified that I will not be accepting any front end development. So that's how I dislike front end development. So that's why I became a back end software engineer.
Any specific reason? Because I'm someone, I'm neutral to this. I don't prefer front end or back end. But is there any specific reason? Like I would prefer not doing front end also, but it's not like I hate it. So why do you have such this why do you have this dislike for front end?
Yeah, because it's just I don't any fun or I don't enjoy writing HTML about writing code to make designs,
Hmm.
to writing code to align some buttons, align some div, align it horizontally on the center of the page. So I really don't. That's like I feel like my the knowledge and the skills that during all those game development and other coding experiences, I feel like it's wasted
Hmm.
when I'm going to do front end development. But again, that's just me. That's just my
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're not saying the front end doesn't need
personal
skill.
one.
The front end does need a quite. You need an aesthetic sense for front end as well. But yeah, I get your point. Why it's not. It doesn't seem that exciting, or or I'm sure it's more exciting
Yeah.
to manage a database in the back or the working of the button behind the front end of it. I'm sure that's more intriguing at least. So, while you're doing either job, your software job or your game dev, how do you stay consistent and as productive as you can? Because coding is something which can take a toll eventually if you do it for long hours together. So, what do you do? Do you have any routine?
I don't have any routine. Like when I wake up, I don't have any routine. It's just that for me, programming and coding is my passion. So that's a big plus. That's a big bonus. Will be longer for that kind of person with really passion for programming to have burnt out or to get tired. So I think for max productivity and consistency is that you have to love
Hmm.
what you do, even if that's work. A lot of people don't love what they are working on, but if you love your work, if you love what you do, especially programming or coding, then I can be always productive and consistent. So for me, just code and code.
Alright. Okay, I think we can now move on to the more game development specific questions. We've had a few here and there questions right now. So, all of us in this club, at least when I was part of this club, we started with Love Today. And the reason we started Love Today was it's a very lightweight framework and it runs easily on pretty much any laptop compared to something like Unity or Unreal, which requires a lot of processing power. So, why did you pick Love Today? Do you have a similar reason or it's something else?
Yeah, kind of similar reason because I think that was 2014, 2015. So I have a very, very, very potato laptop. So the specs is so low that it's like it's a laptop from 2004 or 2005 era. So that's my potato laptop. So I was looking for a game framework or a game engine that my potato laptop can handle. So Unity is definitely not ideal, even Unreal. So I've looked for a simple framework that doesn't have any IDE or GUI or editor like Unity does. So and then I stumbled across Love Love 2D,
Not really.
and it's what's compatible for at the time I was using Linux. I started using Linux, so
Hmm.
that's a big reason why I've chosen it.
All right. Okay. And this is something which I've always wondered as a if since you're a single developer and you just mentioned that you don't really like working on the aesthetics of like something like front end, how do you go about making the creative art for your game? Because the game is not just having a rectangle which shoots. You need to have a character. You need to make it look good. It's just not just the mechanics. So how did you go about that, especially for your game going home? Because like that it looks very nice. It looks very great. So how do you go about that if you cannot do it yourself?
Yeah, so for going home, it was a one-man game. So I did all the programming, I did all the arts, the music, and the design, the marketing, so everything. So it was a one-man team. So the art and design behind that. So the reason why it's black and white or it's grayscale because I suck and I'm terrible when it comes to color. I think I'm color blind, so I don't. I know the color theory. I know those kind of pixel art theories, but when it's time to apply those, I just can't. So I'm more focused on the technical or the programming side of the project. So yeah, I think so. If you're not creative and if you don't have that talent, you can always start to learn it. So there's a lot of courses, or you can always learn it. But for me, I think I've given up on learning how to do better on the art because I'm more focused on the technical aspect.
Did you ever get into Blender? Because when I joined the club, we had to. You can be a designer, you can be in the technical or the coding part. So I didn't even touch Blender because art is something I cannot do. So how did you develop? Even if it was grayscale, how did you go about? What did you use to create your artwork? And also another question: How why did you not just
I
outsource it?
yes, I just I don't know if you guys know the A Sprite or Asset Sprite. A Sprite tool. So it's open source and it's I think it's famous for pixel artists. So that's what I used. So I don't know. Again, my laptop can't handle Photoshop or any other other photo editing tools. So I've used that. So it's very simple. It's very fast and it's good for pixel art. So yeah, and so the reason I didn't outsource is because I was still a teenager that time, so I don't have the resources or the money to outsource it. Um, I think it's pretty obvious that I have a potato laptop, so I don't have any money to upgrade that one, so I don't even have money to outsource it.
Alright. Okay, so moving on from your potato laptop, what do you have now in terms of development? Like, what softwares and hardwares do you use? Because now I assume you have better equipment now. You're still not on the potato laptop.
Yeah, so definitely not on the potato laptop anymore. So we have a good, let's say, a modern laptop that's provided by the by my current employer or the
Hmm.
company. So right now I'm really spoiled by this high spec laptop. So I really can't imagine how I managed to spend a lot of years in that potato laptop when there's a modern laptop like this.
Was going home made completely on the potato laptop, start to end?
Yeah,
Oh wow,
yeah, everything.
I pity you.
I even finished college using that. Yeah.
Alright. Fine. So now we can go a bit more into your game, going home. How did that come about? How do you even think of that idea? Why did you choose? I assume you are not yet mastered Lua by then as a framework, and you started to undertake such a big project like a game on your own that as well. So, what did you do? How did you overcome those technical difficulties?
Yeah, so the moment I learned how to use even the very basic of Lua and Love to the framework, so I just managed to learn how to draw an image and how to check for user inputs, like the user press this button and press that button. So the moment I learned that, I just like jump in and proceed with the development. So the going home game is basically, of course, my target is horror game and puzzle games because it's the genre of games I like. The
Hmm.
classic horror games like Resident Evil and like that. So those are the inspiration. Those are the ideas for the game.
All right. Uh, Again, I think this is just a follow-up question on what we discussed like a few minutes ago, where how do you stay focused on the work you have to do? I think this ties in with your productivity, but how do you stay focused on it and don't lose track of the timeline of your project which you set up? Because there are times you can get deeply engrossed in a problem and just forget that you have something else to a milestone to accomplish.
Yeah, so yeah, good question. So I've experienced that a lot of times. After going home game, I have this this will to make the next game to be as much better than going home. So I got stuck with doing something like making the code, making the game or the project very, let's say, perfect for me. So I got stuck on that. So I forgot. I lose the whole game, the whole scope of the project. So I just focus on those minor things that um that the game doesn't really need or the project doesn't really need. So I've learned that that's what I've been doing for a long time. And then I realized I've learned that you have to set your expectation, you have to set your scope, you have to stick, you have to be consistent with it so you can progress, so you can finish your game or project. Because if it goes for too long, you'll lose your motivation, you lose the the overview of
Hmm.
the project.
So for the second project, are you going to hire artists or are you going to do it in grayscale all over again?
No, no, no. I have a pixel art friend, a pixel artist friend now. So if you will check my recent projects, you can see that the Going Home was remastered or remake into a
Yeah, I saw that.
better
Yeah.
better art. Yeah, so that's one has colors right now. So and it's much better.
Yeah, I
So
think I think the one on the Markiplier
colored
channel
guys.
is still in grayscale. He didn't review the remastered version, so I think the one on the Markiplier channel is still in the grayscale version. But the new one is
Yeah, the grayscale.
much better look. It's much better looking.
Yeah, the new one was just released recently. I think
Hmm.
it was only last month.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there's a aside from the graphical improvements, there are bug fixes, there are a lot of improvements.
All right. Uh, since you said that you developed the game on your own, I'm sure that there was a time where Lua or the framework was not enough. There were certain times you had to use third-party tools. So how do you go? For example, you probably need a third-party tool to manage or link the databases. Just an example which I have done myself. So how do you go about picking up a third-party tool and learning it quickly just for your specific use? Because you probably cannot spend time learning the entire tool on your own.
So definitely when you're if you're going to use Lua and Love, you'll find it very limiting.
Hmm.
At the same time, that's a positive one, and that's of course a negative one. So when it comes to Lua and Love, you have this freedom of you can use whatever third party tool you want. It's not like yeah, when you're using Unity, you have to use this software or this tool that's working, that's compatible with Unity. So with Love or Lua, you can use anything, and then it's just up to you to implement the bridge between those two. So to choose the first sample, if you're going to be designing the environments or the map, you can you can implement your own basic level editor in Lua or Love. So I've done that before. Or you
Hmm.
can use a third party one like Tile, LDTK, Ogma editor, and you can use those to simplify your process. So
Yeah.
since the framework is very liberating, so it gives you a lot of freedom. So you have freedom in choosing the third party tool as well. So I think it depends upon the programmer or the developer. So
Hmm.
it's more on a personal preference what
Yeah, I think I can confirm about Tiled because when I was part of a team where we were developing a maze game, and initially we were just typing in the coordinates ourselves, and then one of my teammates came and told me that maybe you should try out Tiled, and then it just makes it so much easier to arrange the blocks visually, and then just get the coordinates from it. It's a graph, so it becomes a whole lot easier if you just use that tool. Yeah, I do agree with that. Tiled is a very nice tool. Oh, all right. Uh, do you what's next on your open source list? Like you've said that you're going to have, you're developing another game. What's next on your open source contribution? Is there anything you have planned or you're looking forward to?
yeah, so ever since I got work, so I've lost time with open source.
Hmm.
So I can't spend that much time with it anymore. So but in my list I have two targets. Next is to I maintain this other library for Lua and Love.
Hmm.
So it's called Slab, SLAB. So it's like a version of Dear I'm GUI, if you're familiar with that C++ one. So my goal before was to improve it, to make it make a new major release with a lot of improvement and optimization with it. So I started working on it, but got stuck because of work. So I think that's next on my list.
Hmm.
And probably the next one will be to implement more Google libraries or Google SDK to the Android version of Love.
All right. Okay. And this is the final question from our side, which from as a club, we'll after this we will move on to a Q&A session. So you've primarily worked in Python and Lua, and Lua is based on C Sharp and Python's Pygames. So Pygames and Lua are the two primarily the how you start off for game development. So how do they compare for you personally or professionally? How do both of them work for you?
The Pygame and Lua or the C Sharp
Oh, sorry,
and Lua.
C Sharp and what do you say? Like, how do you compare the dynamic type versus the static type development? I just simplify it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there's going to be a lot of heated argument in the internet. You're going to ask about what's better, static type or dynamic type. But in my experience, they both have their own advantages and disadvantages.
Hmm.
For dynamic languages like Python, Lua, you can prototype. You can make prototypes fast. You can make changes fast because you don't have to worry about the compilers. But when it comes to C or C++, which is statically typed, you have to, like, you're constrained to follow the compiler, to follow the
Hmm.
types, to make sure of the types are correct. But on the other hand, debugging and looking for bugs and even avoiding bugs in the first place will be easier to do with a statically typed language, because in Python or Lua I've experienced that you're missing a single letter, you're just missing an S in the variable name, and then it won't complain, it won't error until you reach that code.
Hmm.
So you wasted like it, or you wasted time. And then, but when in statically typed language, if you have a typo, it can easily detect at compilation. So yeah, so for professional software development, I suggest a static type language for the control in memory and the speed that it will give you. But for game development, let's say for quick, let's say your game development is just a simple one, so you don't need a very performance or memory game, so you can stick with dynamic type language.
All right. Okay, I think we can now move on to Q&A, like the audience-based questions. So, everyone in the audience, there is a Q&A channel made in the sessions tab. So, if you all have any questions for Brandon, you all can post it up there. I will convey it. So, oh great, we already have. I think we have quite a few already. Okay, we'll just go in order. These are not technical. I think they're just general questions I want to ask you. So, the first one is from Helix. He asks, "Hey Brandon, if you could make, would you be able to make a game based on any movie or TV show? Which one would you pick? What would it be?"
Yeah, so I have this before that I made with or made with artificial engine. So it was based on, I was really inspired by, I don't know if you know Guillermo del Toro's movie Pan's Labyrinth. So that's kind of a horror fantasy
Hmm.
movie. So I was really inspired to like turn that into a game, but yeah, it didn't pan out.
Okay. I actually have a count. I have like the exact opposite question. Is there any game which you want to become a, which you would like to be a TV show? I assume you're a gamer as well to a certain extent. So, is there any game you would want to see made to it? Because I want to see the God of War series. They're gonna do that on Netflix soon. They're gonna make it a TV show. So, do you have any game like that? You want a horror game to be made into a movie?
Yeah, so games into movie have a very bad reputation because
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a lot of good games that when converted to movie, a lot of gamers really hate it.
yeah. Hmm.
But there's the exception of The Last of Us recently. So I think we're heading in a good direction when it comes to the film industry. So uh, I think Final Fantasy game to adaptation to a series that's not like the bad movies. So that will be cool. So I was expecting a lot from their movie. So
Hmm.
I really like that game, and then I really got disappointed with the movie. But yeah,
Uh,
so
to be
give
honest,
other games a chance as well.
I think Uncharted with Tom Holland, I think that was also pretty good. I think that also worked out all right when they adapted Nathan Drake. I think I think I enjoyed that as well. Okay. Uh,
Yeah,
Prajwal has,
I'll
yeah.
add it to my watch list.
No, it's good. I think it's a decent adaptation. Okay. Prajwal's question is that is there any chance of a Going Home sequel, not the remastered?
Yeah, so before the remaster, there's this Going Home sequel actually. So it has a great art and it's really good looking. So if you're going to check, I think at my Twitter, I guess you can see some short clip pictures of what that game will look like. So yeah, that got stuck in development hell. So
Okay.
I'll looking forward to getting back on it again.
So there's a good chance we get a sequel to Going Home.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
That's okay. Uh, Next question. Went through your flameless .github io page. Why do you hate Java?
Yeah, so aside from front-end development, if there's a language that I really don't like to use, it's definitely Java. Uh, it's not that I'm bad at Java, it's just that I spent a lot of time using Java because of college, because
Hmm.
you're required to use Java. So the programmer experience I experienced with Java is just terrible. It's just I really hate the fact that you have to use an IDE or you have to use a Java IDE just to compile a simple program. Just drives me nuts. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of and you're forced to do everything in the OOP way or the object-oriented programming way. So
Hmm.
I I don't like that. I dislike that.
Alright, you just think it's very restrictive with the virtual machines and the IDs. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that's fine. Okay. Bitter's asking which games do you play?
Yeah. So it's common, but I'm a game developer who doesn't like to play games anymore. I don't know why I've lost any interest in playing games myself, but I like to watch people play games. Like I'm still interested in new games, modern games.
Hmm.
I like the story. I like to watch the gameplay. But right now I'm just chess, online chess, and Mobile Legends for some free time that I have.
What's the last game you remember playing? How many years ago it was? Was the last game you remember playing and enjoying?
The last game,
Yeah, like you actually sat down and played and you enjoyed it.
oh, I think that's a I think that's a long time ago. So it's good. It's probably Final Fantasy 8. Yeah,
Okay.
that's my favorite. Final Fantasy 8 or 6. Either of those.
You didn't play after. Are you? Have you not played after 8? Because I think it's gone up to what, 14 now. I think it's Final Fantasy 12 or
Yeah,
13 definitely.
I think no, I don't like 9 and above. I just like
Okay.
8 because of the story and definitely 6.
All
The
right.
best in the series.
All right. Guys, we are going. Okay, someone's typing. I was going to end the session here, but someone's typing. Okay. What is the Helix asks again, what is the most unique or interesting aspect of Love Today that you appreciate the most?
Yeah, so the most unique and interesting aspect of Love Today that I appreciate the most is the freedom that it gives you. So if you there's a thousand way to do what you want. So you're not constrained to anything. So if you're going to use Unity or any or Godot or Unreal, you can follow like this kind of procedures to do
Hmm.
what you want. But in Love, you are free to do. If you want to make 3D, you go implement what kind of 3D you want. So in camera, you can implement your own camera. You can use another library's camera. So you're really, really free. So even in the project structure, the project design, if you want to do it the OOP or functional or service way or data-oriented way, so it's really up to you. So everyone can craft the project or the code base according to their preference.
Alright, so you like the flexibility of it basically. Yeah. Okay. Bitter asks, what is Slab about? Any suggestions for new contributors?
Yeah, so Slab is it's not my original project. So
Hmm.
it's a project by another developer coding Jackalope. So he moved on and he left. So I inherited that. So I'm the new maintainer. So uh, for new contributors, I guess to make suggestion to
Hmm.
check for bugs because it's still buggy, of course. So there's a lot of things to cover. There's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of improvements. to do, especially when it comes to optimization. Like, don't make it use too much garbage.
Mhm.
Yeah, so anyone is free to suggest or make pull requests with Slack.
All right. Okay. Uh, is Love2D or Lua a good place to start with open source contribution in terms of recognition and impact?
Okay, so when you say open source contribution, do you mean you will use it to Love framework itself or the Lua language itself, or you will use those to to contribute to other, let's say, third-party libraries like Love2D and Lua?
I think Mihir can clarify that for me, but I think based on what I read from his question, I think he's asking if you use Love2D as a tool to make contributions. I'm not sure if he's talking about, like, he's just typing again, let me confirm with him. But I think he's asking using Love2D to contribute to third party contributions. But let me just confirm, he's typing again. Also, guys, we are going to be wrapping up this session. Okay,
The core Love2D framework.
the
Okay.
core Love2D framework. Yes, okay, so the other one.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I think it's not a good place because the Love2D framework is already like mature. The code base is mature, so
Hmm.
there's a lot of again it you can't just in my experience you can't just suggest or request this kind of feature or this kind of API from the Love to the team because again we or the Love to the developers follow the main or the core
Hmm.
philosophy of Love framework which is usability. So not anything can be added. So let's say if you're going to use another framework, they have this their own camera built in, they have their own chat built in, but with Love, that will those will be rejected because again, it's not it's not simple per se.
All right.
So uh, yeah, so it's a good place to learn open source contribution, especially how C++ and Lua interacts with each other. But
Hmm.
for the framework itself, I don't think it's not a good place. Yeah.
All right. I think we have about 5 minutes left. If anyone has any last questions, y'all can put it in the chat. We'll wait for a couple minutes if anyone has anything left to ask. Till then,
Oh, I'll
anyone?
just add.
Yeah.
Can I just add for from that last question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, if you want to contribute to Love, you can contribute to the Android to the Android port. So the Android one has a lot of need for for it to be mature. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of leeway and freedom. So anyone can contribute easily with the Android version, the
Uh,
official Love version.
do you think there's any potential? You mentioned the Android development. Do you think any potential in Love VR?
There's there's a Love VR already, but it's not made from the code base of Love itself. It's just
Hmm.
like it's inspired by the API of Love VR.
Hmm. Okay.
But but it's very similar to Love VR. You can use Lua to program that.
Okay. Fine. I think we can end on this final question, which is again just continuation of this topic. Which third-party libraries you think should exist in the Love framework which don't exist today, like a good socket library?
I think I'm pretty sure there's a lot of socket libraries, but yeah, I haven't used this, so I don't know if they're good. But which third-party libraries do I is in the framework? Uh, hmm. In my knowledge, as far as I know, there's already one framework or one third-party library for each game development game.
Hmm.
But I guess mm, it will be what do you call this? Skeletal animation, yeah, or bone
Okay.
animation. And that's the that's the library I know that is in love, but those are very old and outdated and doesn't work with the latest version. So yeah,
Hmm.
if I'm going to ask or request for one, it will be that animation tool.
Hmm. Let's hope someone contributes to that. All right.
Definitely going to be hard.
Okay, great. I think we can end it on that. It's been a great session. I think we've had a good mix of technical and non-technical questions. And yeah, to everyone who's in the audience, whoever is not already a member of Game Dev, based on Brandon's experience working with Love and Love Today, Lua, this is where all of us have started. We do some Unity games as well, but we all of us start with the Love Today framework. So whoever is still interested, you can reach out to us. Our Discord is always open for anyone who's willing to help out and participate in game development, because we want to start. We are across only two colleges right now, but we are currently looking to expand and reach to like as many students as we can. So yeah, great. I think thank you so much, Brandon, for giving us your time. I know you probably
Yes,
had a busy
yes,
schedule and it's late in the night, but thank you so much for being with us here today.
yes. So thanks everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to share and speak as well.
All
I
right,
really appreciate it.
thank you everyone. We'll see you all soon, hopefully with another session later. All right,
Thank you. Bye
thank
bye.
you. Bye bye. Hello.
I think it's not visible to him, I guess, this channel.
नहीं उसको विजिबल है, उसको जनरल पक्का विजिबल है.
उसको ड्रैग एंड ड्रॉप कर दे. बाकी लोग क्या कर रहे
नहीं,
हैं?
he's left actually. Everyone's left the stage. No one's there anymore. Yeah, no one's in the stage. Everyone's left the stage. No one's there anymore. I think Brandon's gone offline.
वो आ पा रहा है कि नहीं? Like I don't see like